Blade Runner fans rejoice. Amazon Prime has given the green light to a live-action, limited-run TV show set in the world of Blade Runner, and Ridley Scott, who made the first Blade Runner movie, is set to return as an executive producer on the new show. So sit back and relax as we discuss everything we know about the upcoming neo-noir show, Blade Runner 2099. Starting off with the team behind the show. As of now, we only know that the show will take place 50 years after the last installment, the epic sequel Blade Runner 2049, which Denis Villeneuve brought to the big screen in October 2017. Ridley Scott is returning as an executive producer alongside other executive producers Andrew Kosov and Broderick Johnson, who started Alcon Entertainment, the company that made the animated series Blade Runner Black Lotus. And they're joined by Silke Luisa, who wrote Apple TV Plus's Shining Girls. She also served as the supervising producer on Paramount Plus's Halo, which didn't get as much attention as it should have. Also, Michael Green, who helped write the script for Blade Runner 2049, is working on this project as an executive producer. Even though there are no official details about the cast yet, various trusted sources say that Harrison Ford is in talks to play Rick Deckard again. Let's go! We've already seen a big difference between Los Angeles in 2019 and 2049, and 2049 showed us a much more dystopian world damaged by climate change. We think it'll be interesting to see how the world looks in the year 2099. Moving on, should the original cast come back for the show? It's safe to say that there are a lot of passionate Blade Runner fans, and if memory serves us correctly, when Harrison Ford was confirmed for the sequel in early 2015, fans of the first movie had good reason to be worried. Almost every sci-fi fan was worried that it wouldn't live up to the first movie and would end up being more like Demolition Man than the original, which was a cerebral cinematic sensation. And then look what happened. The prequel proved to be at least as good as the first one. Also, we should look at how much money Amazon is putting into The Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power. $456 million for just one season of 8 episodes. This means that each episode cost about $57 million. That's a pretty big budget, which makes the possibilities almost too much to handle. Followed by the plot of Blade Runner 2099. Well, as of now, the plot of Blade Runner 2099 hasn't been talked about in any official way, but Kosov and Johnson said they are beyond excited to continue to expand the Blade Runner canon into a new realm with a provocative storyline that Silke has created. At this point, it's hard to figure out what new realm and provocative storyline mean, but since the new movie takes place 50 years after the events of Blade Runner 2049, we can guess what its main themes might be. Blade Runner has always been about what it means to be human, and if Ford comes back to play Deckard, are we finally going to find out if he is a human or a replicant? Well, Ridley Scott has said that this is true, but it's not yet considered canon. We'd love to know the answer of that question, but maybe it's time for Blade Runner 2099 to move on from the are they or aren't they a replicant mystery that was a big part of both the previous movies. Next up, what to expect from the upcoming Amazon series then? Well, for starters, we expect the new series to look at the effects of Blade Runner 2049, huge and reality-shattering reveal that replicants can have children. Yep, the bombshell that was dropped on us after almost 30 years. Science fiction may be about what could happen in the future, but it's always a bright way to look at the world we live in now. We think that the story of what happens next to the replicants could include things like inequality, the loss of freedom of choice and bodily autonomy, climate change, and even the rise of fascism. And if the right people make the show, a new series could give us more of what made these two movies so memorable. Dark sci-fi noir, set to really great scores. Or maybe it's time to try something new with the series and look at parts of Scott's imagined future that we haven't seen before. We'd also like to find out how replicants treat themselves, since they are a new species in and of themselves. Will they have different classes and live in different places, or will it be a story of us against them? We're looking for a story that goes deep into these important questions about what it means to be human, how power works, and how free we are, and of course, flying cars. Now, let's look at the timeline leading up to the year 2099. According to Warner Brothers, between the first and second movies, the following things happen in the Blade Runner universe. The first movie showed us in 2019, where replicants are made illegal and punishable by death on Earth after a bloody mutiny by a Nexus 6 combat team in an off-world colony. And Officer Rick Deckard, a Blade Runner, and Rachel, a prototype replicant, leave Los Angeles together. The next year, in 2020, after Eldon Tyrell, the company's founder, dies, the Tyrell Corporation rushes out a new line of Nexus 8 replicants for use in space. But unlike previous Nexus models, which were made to last for 4 years, the Nexus 8s have an open-ended lifespan and eye implants to make them easy to spot. Then there was the blackout of 2022, when an EMP went off somewhere on the west coast, but no one knows where it came from. Cities are closed for weeks, and most of the country has electronic data that is broken or lost. The world's financial and trade markets crash. There isn't enough food. People have ideas about what caused the blackout, but none of them are true, and most people say that replicants are to blame. Pure and utter chaos. What follows is that in 2023, replicants are banned, and the government and says that making replicants is illegal for the rest of the time. This led to Nexus 6 models no longer being made because they were designed to last only 4 years, and the last Nexus 8 models were taken off the market. Following. So what happened after that? Well, 2 years later in 2025, Neander Wallace, an idealistic scientist, is one of the first to make progress in genetically modified food, and he shares his patents for free, ending a global crisis. His company, the Wallace Corporation, grows all over the world and in the colonies that aren't on Earth. And 3 years later, Wallace bought the bankrupt Tyrell Corporation's remaining assets in 2028. Then the 2030s, Wallace improves on Tyrell's genetic engineering methods by implanting memories in replicants to make them more obedient and easy to control. The ban on alcohol is lifted in 2036, and Wallace brings back the Nexus 9, a new line of perfected replicants. The next decade, the 2040s, where the sequels take place, shows the LAPD adding more resources to its Blade Runner unit, which is responsible for finding illegal replicants and getting rid of them. When we go back to Los Angeles 30 years after the first movie, the sea level has risen significantly because of climate change. The city is protected from the Pacific Ocean by a huge seawall, and San Diego isn't much more than a place to process trash from the city. Even worse than before, there are more poor and sick people in Los Angeles now than ever before, and people who weren't healthy enough to go to the colonies off-world were left behind. There's no fresh food, so people eat Wallace's genetically modified foods that are sold at street markets from vending machines. Finally, what to watch before Blade Runner 2099 starts streaming on Amazon. We don't know yet how closely Blade Runner 2099 will be related to the first 2 movies in the series, but since the series has the same name, it's pretty clear that we're 50 years ahead of Blade Runner 2049, and it's likely that this will be a new story with the same themes and even some of the same characters and plots. Luckily, we'll have plenty of time to watch both sequels at least once before the new series comes out, and if you want to see more of the Blade Runner world, the animated series Blade Runner Black Lotus, which takes place in 2032, is a good watch. Also, fans think that the 3 short films that were released before Blade Runner 2049 are also interesting. These movies are Blade Runner Blackout 2022, 2036 Nexus Dawn, and 2048 Nowhere to Run. And as far as we can tell, all of these stories are canon, but we shouldn't put them ahead of the full-length movies on the list of things to watch. That's all for this video. Are you excited about the Blade Runner 2099 live-action TV show? What do you expect from the show? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content in the future. Thanks for watching. See you next time.